Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us in the world. Also, if you didn't get a chance to catch this live webinar today, hello to those who are listening to the recording. I want to, first of all, take a moment to thank all of the participants and attendees for joining this webinar today, giving us your very, very valuable time to listen to the topics that we have included in the day's agenda. I also want to take a brief moment to thank our partners over at Actionable Insights. We have with us the Actionable Insights team that are going to go through and talk about some very important things and topics related to Matterport in specifically the insurance and restoration vertical today. So we're excited to bring a lot of very exciting and cool and neat content to you. Without further ado, I have a couple of housekeeping items that I am going to start off with, and then we will go ahead and dive into the meat and potatoes of the webinar. We do have a Q&A tab for those of you that may be new to Zoom. We do have a Q&A tab that you will see near the bottom of your screen if you are participating. If you have a question related to any of the topics that we are currently discussing, I encourage you to click on that Q&A tab. It's going to open up a pop-up where you have the ability to type in any questions that you have and then submit those questions. We do have a couple people from the Matterport team, including myself, on the call today that are going to do our best to make sure all questions that are submitted in the Q&A tab are answered, and we get those answered before we conclude the meeting today. We will pause during the end of this webinar session. Hopefully, we're going to have approximately 5 to 10 minutes remaining near the end of the session to be able to answer any pending questions. That way, we've gone through and cleared that list before we conclude. As I mentioned, we are recording this webinar, so if you did register for the webinar and something came up, it is the nature of the beast in this industry that you were not able to attend the live session. Rest easy, the webinar is recorded, so there will be a link shared on social media platforms and Matterport's website if you want to access this recording at a later time. Without further ado, I am going to go ahead and jump right in and share with you our agenda today. The first thing we're going to go into, introducing those of you who are attending to the insurance and restoration team at Matterport. The key players on the insurance and restoration team at Matterport that are dedicated to people like restoration contractors, insurance companies, TPAs, or public adjusters or forensic companies that utilize Matterport for those purposes. We are also going to shine what we call our partner spotlight on the Actionable Insights organization and team to talk about some very exciting things today. Once we've wrapped up with our partner spotlight, we are also going to share some internal resources from not just the insurance and restoration team, also our customer support team, making sure you have access to Matterport in any way that you need, whether it's the insurance and restoration team that you need to tap into, customer support, or you are simply looking for some additional resources, whether it's for training or you just have some simple questions that need to be answered. And last but not least, we're going to go into that open Q&A, as I mentioned, the last 5 or 10 minutes, where we will be able to address any pending questions that have been submitted in the Q&A as we go through the webinar today. So please feel free to utilize that. I am going to jump right into our partner spotlight not our partner spotlight, our introduction to the insurance and restoration team at Matterport. I'm going to start off by introducing Ben Clark and Daniel Michael. These are what we call our account executives at Matterport. These are the two individuals whether you are an existing Matterport client or you are new to Matterport and considering making the investment, getting involved in utilizing Matterport, Ben Clark and Danny Michael are going to be the ones that you want to connect with to be able to talk about the hardware or camera options that you may have, as well as the account or subscription options that are available to you for the best price. Now, once you have decided to proceed with Matterport, that is then when the account executives will hand you off to me on the customer success side of the team to be able to begin the training and onboarding and or implementation of Matterport for your organization. We will always be, throughout the entire process, those single points of contact that you can feel free to reach out to at any given time if you have any questions or challenges that may arise. Now, I have not shared our contact information on this slide. Believe it or not, there is a method to my madness. You will need to stay tuned in until the end of the webinar in order to be able to see our direct telephone and or email address info. So stay tuned with us. We've got some exciting things we are excited to share today. Without further ado, as we move into our partner spotlight, I want to introduce everyone to the Actionable Insights team. For Seth, Cole, and Derek, welcome to the webinar, gentlemen. I want to take a few minutes here and give each one of you an opportunity to briefly share a little bit about yourselves, who you are, what you do with Actionable Insights, and whether it's a fun fact or what you've done in the insurance and restoration industry prior to Actionable.
All right. What's up, Tim? Good morning. Nice to be here. Thank you. My name is Seth Harrison. I'm the executive director here at Actionable Insights. I think most people probably know me as Harrison. We do a lot of last name stuff here at Actionable Insights. I joined the property insurance industry in 2014 on the contractor side. I was hired to run logistics and finance for a very large occupied residency repipe, about a $6 million job. And shortly after that, I was asked to learn how to estimate, how to document and settle claims. And I started looking for resources on how does someone learn how to be a better estimator? How do I document and settle claims more efficiently? And it was around 2016 that I was introduced to Matterport through a class from a little company named Actionable Insights. At that time, I was just a student, and I was learning from the master, our president and founder, Watley. But it was at the end of that class that I bought him a beer and I said, you know stuff, and I'm really interested in Matterport and Xactimate. I'd like to come work for you. In the last 7 years, we've published a 3,000-page book of Xactimate invoicing templates. We've created a certification course around Matterport and how to properly leverage Matterport in the property insurance industry. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on the education side of this industry to help people understand what Matterport can do for property insurance, how to apply that to the claims process. And yeah, now our team's growing. It's not just me and Watley, which is nice. So Martin, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, what's going on? Martin here, Associate Director of Membership Services here at Actionable Insights. Basically, that means I help connect you to tools, resources, and education around Matterport and other technology like Xactimate. I've had the pleasure of hosting Matter Hacks video series on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn, so you may have seen us there, as well as one of the hosts of our AI Matterport certified course. So it's been a great pleasure over the last few years helping educate really the industry around Matterport's technology. Stone, why don't you take it away?
Absolutely. Hi, guys. My name's Derek Stone, aka Stone. I met the Actionable team during a training engagement and was introduced to Matterport for the first time. It blew my mind. So much so that I personally bought a Pro 1 and then a Pro 2 and ultimately left the company I was estimating for to scan full-time and write estimates from the data within those scans. In the first 3 months of marketing Matterport services, I had $27,000 in scan contracts. Geospatial is the future of the insurance restoration industry, guys. I've taken what I've learned from my career and joined Team Actionable to help promote the best tools for the best results and help us all fall in love with our jobs again.
Outstanding. Wonderful introduction, team. And we are extremely excited to finally be able to bring you guys on with us as we go through this Shop Talk webinar today. It's kind of one of those moments where we just pause for a moment and take a deep breath or a sigh and say, these two things just go together. It's like peanut butter and jelly. Everything works together very well and smoothly. So we're very happy to have you on with us today. As we jump in, I've got some questions for the team. Seth, Cole, or Derek, any of you are welcome to answer at any time. But in your best explanation, how would you describe what Actionable Insights is and how Matterport and Actionable Insights actually pair or work together as a team?
All right. This is fun for me. Actionable Insights is a 501c6 nonprofit. We are a trade association. We were founded by a group of contractors and adjusters who have recognized in the last 10 to 20 years of being a contractor or being an adjuster, it's getting harder and harder to do really good work and get paid fairly. And a lot of it comes down to administrative burden, claims documentation. Property insurance industry has a bit of a labor shortage problem all around. We have a demographics problem in that people are entering the industry and leaving the industry within 2 to 3 years. And so we exist, our founding statement is to preserve the health of the restoration ecosystem. And so naturally, all the revenue that comes to a 501c6 goes right back into the mission of preserving the restoration and property insurance ecosystem. So the best way for us to be able to preserve that health is to help people understand what tools are out there, what resources are out there. If those resources are needed and don't exist, guess who's going to build them? It's us. That's our goal. We try to build things that have never existed before. A really good example of this is if anybody doesn't realize this, we do not have a standard of invoicing in the property insurance industry. This is a $200 billion industry a year, $300 billion if there are a couple catastrophic events like hurricanes and fires ripping through. So this is a very large industry in which there is no standard of invoicing. Most people are self-taught, peer-taught, and that doesn't mean we were taught the wrong things. It also doesn't mean we were taught the right things. We were taught by the things around us that we could get access to. And so in this age of information where you can document and settle almost anything from anywhere, especially with the help of things like Matterport, it has become a pleasure to build resources around estimating, around process. Cole and Martin and Stone especially have been building out a large collection of video resources for people to better understand, hey, what is this Matterport stuff? Hey, how do I do this in Xactimate if I'm trying to charge for Matterport and things like that? And so we are an educational nonprofit. We exist to preserve the health of the restoration ecosystem. And as Martin says best, we want to help people fall in love with their jobs again. Like, this is a tough industry to work in. It's very rewarding. We are helping people in their biggest time of need whenever there's property damage, whether that's at a home or a business. It sucks having your life interrupted by something that wasn't your fault. It's also a wonderful industry in that anybody can participate. It doesn't matter who you are or where you came from or what your background is or what you studied. None of that matters. If you're willing to show up and work hard in the property insurance industry, you've got a chance of success. So it's a very fulfilling opportunity we have to try to reinvest in the people that are making important repairs and settling claims at the times when people need them most.
Outstanding. How would you best describe, Seth, the partnership between Matterport and Actionable Insights?
Sure. Around 2017, we started working with Matterport pretty closely, mostly because you guys were a little curious as to what we were doing with your cameras, because Matterport up until 2015, 16 had seen a lot of scans, but most of those scans coming to your HQ were around real estate and perfectly staged homes with furniture and flowers, and everything looked good. And then there was a couple contractors that started using your cameras, and you started seeing fires and floods and hoarders, or what we call extreme content situations. And so that started a conversation between Actionable and Matterport around, hey, what is this? And what are you guys doing with our cameras? It's not something we've seen before. And I think a giant light bulb went off in everybody's head. So in around 2018, Actionable Insights was officially named your Matterport Premier Training and Support Partner for the property insurance industry. And so our goal for the last 6 years has been to help take what we know as experts of property insurance, as well as everyday users of Matterport, and marry the two concepts. If you are trying to settle claims, whether you're a contractor, a vendor, a subcontractor, a carrier, an IA, a PA, whatever your role is, Matterport has an impact on the property insurance claims process, a very positive, significant impact. So if that's where we've been for the last 7 years with you guys, of being your training and support partner and helping apply your technology to the property insurance industry.
Absolutely. And I echo some of the things that you said previously, Seth, and specifically in this industry that we're in, everyone is looking for a single source solution for, training and onboarding and implementation, and something where there is an LMS platform that's going to quiz and test their knowledge. So it's just not something they tap into or listen to for an hour and they're done, but they want something that's going to be, very helpful and beneficial to them in the long run and add value. So something I can say from personal experience, Actionable Insights definitely provides. Thank you for that. I'm going to move on to the next slide here, Seth, and not sure who you want to have handle this one, but as Actionable Insights is plugged into the ecosystem here, what are the topics that come to mind with this slide?
Yeah, this is a major tenet of our training slide deck so that people can understand Actionable's role in the industry and even where softwares like Matterport and Xactimate come into play. We've had groups that tell us how to do work in the field, how to safely and properly execute the job that must be done. So thankfully, we have OSHA, we have IICRC, we have the RIA, we have these guidelines on how to properly and safely do things to make sure we don't get hurt along the way. And then we have Xactimate. Xactimate is the industry's leading invoicing software. There are over 20,000 line items, each line item being an activity in the field, like detaching a garbage disposer. And so our goal at Actionable has been to build a standard of invoicing such that if this is the way we're supposed to do it, and here's the invoicing software, here are the line items that you would use to invoice for those activities. Here's how you would justify the use of those line items. If we can marry those two concepts, how do we do it and how do we invoice for it reasonably? Then we can start to build very, very interesting things here in the industry. But you need that buy-in of contractors and carriers to be able to build these kinds of standards. And so this is where those standards get really interesting. Ever since we published the Insight Sheet database, our collection of Xactimate invoicing templates, we've started to develop these rule-based algorithms. Marty, why don't you give them a preview of what we've done with the Actionable profile here?
Yeah, I mean, the Actionable profile is really the next generation of rule-based algorithms, right? You go ahead and take alerts and provide guidance in real time as you're writing your scope. So whether you're detaching, that garbage disposal, Seth, that you mentioned earlier, it'll provide you guidance. Hey, here is some other items that are associated with this activity that you need to invoice for. Or here's a mistake you actually made while invoicing for this activity. So next generation of rule-based algorithms is really in the Actionable profile.
Yes. And then when you have a standard of invoicing, you can really start to apply different technologies to drive efficiency. Stone, what was it like pre-Matterport and post-Matterport when you started settling claims with Matterport? What was that experience like?
It was complicated. Most of your documentation was photo documentation. You might have 200 pictures of the inside of a house that was affected by a fire. 50 of those might be out of focus. 20 of those might be so far zoomed in that you don't even have context as what you're looking at. Everything changed dramatically, just an order of magnitude when Matterport was introduced, because you have the entirety of the space captured in that moment of time exactly as everything is. You can pitch, pan, zoom in, see anything you need to in that space.
I love
Huge
it.
change.
Tim, you see how it all comes together. Here, how do we do it safely and properly? How do we invoice for it being reasonable and customary? what kind of helpful tools and estimating resources can I add to my estimating process to make sure my team's doing the right thing? Actionable profile. What technologies can I give to my entire team to speed up the entire process to make it easier for everybody to get to the settled value of a claim and get to work faster? Lastly, this is important in the top right corner. As an educational nonprofit, we work with our partners. We work with you, Matterport. We work with Verisk and Xactimate to advocate on behalf of our network of insiders. Essentially, if there's a line item that doesn't exist, but people need it because they're doing this activity in the field every day, then we will advocate for the adoption of a line item with the pricing department. If there's a feature or a utility that Matterport doesn't have that our industry thinks it should, then it's something we would talk about with you guys. This was actually a conversation we had in 2019 before you released the updated measurement mode in December 2019 around the needs for, hey, what are contractors and adjusters doing with our measurements? Being able to double click and snap a line across quickly to grab a measurement was a very important thing to add to the utility belt in the edit mode of Matterport. So this is kind of who we are and what we do. We want to make sure that all these resources come together in a way that people can work efficiently and have a little fun.
Outstanding. Thank you for all that helpful information. We do have a question that's somewhat related to this current topic, and someone's currently asking, who actually is Actionable's customer? Who do they work for? Is it typically the carrier or the policyholders? Who is the customer?
Great question. We were set up as a 501c6 on purpose. There's no equity in a nonprofit. Nobody owns us, meaning nobody can buy our standards and decide to influence them in any direction. Anything we post or publish as an estimating resource is reviewed by our board of directors. Our board of directors is a volunteer-driven board made up of both contractors and adjusters. So until I can get both sides of the claim to agree that something's reasonable and customary, we don't get to publish it. So when it comes to our customers are contractors, our customers are carriers. We don't really sell anything to policyholders, but we do have policyholders interested in what we're doing on their behalf, because naturally everyone in this industry is a policyholder. Tim, you're a policyholder. I'm a policyholder. We want the property insurance industry to work when something goes wrong. So I wouldn't say policyholders are our customers, but they might be the ones that benefit the most from our working with contractors and carriers to make sure that people are settling claims efficiently and appropriately.
Outstanding. Thank you for answering that one, Seth. I'm going to jump on to our next slide here and talk about this very dangerous phrase, right? We've all heard it. I think when we were listening to Stone talk about how things were pre-Matterport and post-Matterport, right? Many of us who are on this webinar today have had many, many years of experience in the insurance and restoration industry. And one thing is for certain, technology has changed the game. What would you like to share about this phrase, we've always done it this way?
Yeah, it's a question that I ask when we are training. When a company flies us out to train Matterport and Xactimate for their team, this is one of the first questions we ask. Why do you do things the way you do them? If the only answer to that question is because we've always done it this way, then it's worth stopping for a moment and asking yourself, is there a different way of doing it? Different doesn't mean better, but somebody else somewhere else in the country might be doing something a little bit differently that might actually work better for you than your current process. And so often, especially for contractors, they are so busy. They are too busy working in their business to work on their business. And it is easy to lose sight of, hey, why do we do things the way we do them? So it's just a common reminder of this is one of the most dangerous phrases in property insurance. Contractors go out of business all the time because they do not adapt to how carriers are, how the claims process is changing, how the development of TPAs, right? There's a lot of factors that change in the property insurance on a regular basis. And if you're not adapting with them, then you're in danger. And so that's all this question is meant to generate inside of everyone that trains with us. If you don't know why you're doing it, and the only answer is because we've always done it this way, we just encourage you to stop and make sure you can express the value of your process. That's it. Like, make sure you know why you're doing what you're doing. And if you don't, take a look outside of your company to figure out how other people are doing it, because maybe there's a different way. Matterport represented a different way. Tim, I've been training Matterport for 7-8 years now. And I think 2018, Actionable would get on stages to get people excited to be like, who's never seen a Matterport scan before? And half the hands would shoot up in the crowd because nobody had seen it before. But I think 2023, I think we've been on stage a few times. Every time I've talked about Matterport, I've had maybe one person out of a crowd of 100 raise their hand saying they've never seen it before. So we are wildly past where we were 6-7 years ago around nobody knows what this stuff is versus they know what it is now. And hopefully asking these kinds of questions of why do you do what you do has helped people understand of, hey, maybe there is some new technology out there that can help us do our jobs better.
Absolutely. The power of why is a very strong thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about these different examples that we're sharing next. What would you like to say about risk engineering, business development, sales, so on and so forth, as it relates to Matterport technology?
Yeah, this is awesome. Many people, when they think about Matterport, they think of it as maybe a software company. They see the sexy scans and the 3D doll houses, and they're like, ooh, cool, it's a software company. And then a lot of people think of it, oh, it's a camera. Yes, Matterport is a hardware and a software company. It's rare to have both. Apple is a very common example of a company that makes iPhones and the software for iPhones, and everything works. And that's part of what we love about Matterport. If you're using Matterport's cameras with Matterport software, everything just works and it's super awesome. But Matterport is much more than a camera. And this is another main tenet of our slide deck so that people can understand how this camera can impact every aspect of your business. So we'll try to give some few examples here for people to, jog some memories around what's really possible here. Risk engineering is essentially the carrier's ability to accurately write and bind policies for the property insurance industry. If a carrier doesn't have good information about a property, they don't know when it was built, what it looks like, are there trees or even the jumpy thing, trampolines in the backyard, right? All of these things represent risk and need to be written into the policy around property insurance. And so if a carrier is able to capture a scan before a loss, meaning right when the house is sold, purchased, built, or, before a loss actually happens, that's what we would call a risk engineering scan, allowing a carrier to properly underwrite a property with a full 3D scan before there ever is a loss, which is quite entertaining, or the idea is entertaining because there is a future, Tim, where there are tons of these risk engineering scans on file, meaning if a hurricane rips through and a home just isn't there anymore, you can't scan nothing. But if a carrier had a risk engineering scan on file, then you at least have something to go back to as to, hey, what did this house look like, which is very, very fun.
Takes me back to the Hurricane Katrina days, right? When that actually happened.
Yes. Business development is its own animal as well. One thing that Actionable trains towards is that contractors are best defined by the jobs they don't take. Anybody can take a job in this industry, but it takes a really good contractor to know what's a good job and what's not a good job and to say no to the bad jobs for their company. And so what we've seen with Matterport is that it's really created the ability to walk into any scenario, whether it's a property management house, whether it's a school district, to be able to go to these large networks of organizations of properties and be able to say, hey, we can scan all your properties such that if something happens, we have the scan, we're ready to go. Our team will be trained up and know where to go to address this particular loss. So there's a lot of efficiency, and having Matterport allows you to offer something as part of your business development process to say, hey, we can go scan properties and lock in the best work that we want to get for our company. Cole, why don't you talk about on-site sales in front of a policyholder with Matterport?
Yeah, I mean, what an incredible opportunity for sales, right? If you're a contractor listening to this webinar right here, you're probably used to showing up, having a conversation with the policyholder, showing them a little threefold, pamphlet, right? Here's what your home looks like right now. Here's what it's going to look like. Here are all the benefits of working with us, right? Imagine a world where that gets upgraded, where you show up on site with your iPad, with your Matterport camera, and you show them a 3D scan of the pre-mitigation, right? This is what your home looks like right now. There's 2 inches of standing water. I know you're stressed about it, but we're going to take care of you. After we get all the dry out done and tear out, this is what your home's going to look like, right? And then when you're done, here's a post-repair scan of your home beautifully put back together. and we're going to handle it for you, right? We're going to take care of you. And not only are we using the latest technology, but you can see it right here in a 3D geospatial scan. That is a cool sales tactic. And if you're not using it right now, think about what you're doing right now and why this might be a good option for you.
Absolutely.
The next one here, Tim, risk management, I think is what most people connect with Matterport right away. It's like the first most common thing around risk management. Contractors, unfortunately, are blamed every day for scratches, damage, things missing that, quite honestly, they never did. Whether it's a scratch on the refrigerator, a scratch on the table, a scratch on the balustrade, these things happen all the time. And nothing is great when a homeowner or a business owner is accusing the contractor of doing damage to their property that needs to be addressed. Just no matter what, the relationship is harmed in some way when somebody thinks, hey, somebody messed up my stuff and I'm owed something. What Matterport has represented, especially if you're performing a scan before any work is done on the claim. So if you have water on the ground, before you do any water extraction, if you are able to scan the property, you are giving the policyholder, the carrier, and the contractor a point in time to visually see exactly what the house looked like before the claim was processed, before any mitigation was done, before any repair was done, et cetera. And so, I mean, Stone, you have been a contractor for many years. How has Matterport impacted your ability to CYA, to essentially make sure that you have captured the home for what it is before you do any work?
It's been a dramatic shift. Huge. It prevents problems from happening before they happen. And I've been that contractor that's had the damaged countertop. I've been that contractor that's had the damaged driveway. If you have no documentation whatsoever of the pre-existing conditions, you don't know, you're in an awful spot.
Yeah, Stone, I have purchased 2 driveways in my career because I did not properly protect the driveway when I put a dumpster on it. So like these things happen. And if it is the contractor's responsibility or fault that something went wrong, then yes, more often than not, they're going to take care of it and make sure it's right. But it's also just a terrible position to be in to be accused of something you didn't do, which is why Matterport can make that whole process be better. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yep. No, you're good. So with that, if there is an issue or a potential issue, you can pull up your pre-existing scan, walk through it with the homeowner, and see the exact condition of whatever item is in question before your contractors step foot on site.
Operations is a natural solution for Matterport. We have seen over the last 5 years a huge shift towards remote estimating, centralized estimating, where you have the people that are already in the field, your technicians, your project managers. Those are the ones that are performing scans and capturing job data for a team of estimators and adjusters that are now sitting at their desk, collecting all the information, receiving it from the field, and then writing estimates, settling claims remotely without ever stepping foot on site. None of that was possible before Matterport, before DocuSketch. Before any of this geospatial has entered the realm of the property insurance industry. This is part of why we recognize it's the future. If you go look at hiring trends for carriers and contractors, they're not hiring a ton of field adjusters. They're not hiring a ton of local adjusters. There is a huge shift towards remote centralized estimating and adjusting. So if you are an IA watching, a PA watching, and you're curious about what the future of claims processing looks like, Matterport is the premier option that will be that main option used by carriers and contractors for decades of property insurance settlement. So it's a good idea to be aware of how does Matterport affect the ability to process claims in operations, because it was a slow start. We had the trough of sorrow when people started learning about this technology in 2016 and 2017, but it's been a wild ride, especially post-COVID, when the entire world needed to figure out how to get inside of homes without stepping inside of a home. So it was a huge shift in property insurance claim settlement. The last 2 are pretty quick, Tim. There are building inspectors all around the country that are driving around to properties trying to make sure that the work was done in order to release claims funds. Matterport scans cannot be photoshopped, straight up. So if a contractor or a carrier can perform a scan proving that the work was done, that is speeding up the ability to release claims funds to the contractors and the policyholders that need them to be able to pay for these services. Lastly, client retention. Tim, there's nothing worse than doing great work for somebody that you've been in their home for months, and then you run into them a year later at the grocery store and they can't remember your name for anything. Like they're like, who are you? You were in my home for 3 months. That's a bummer. So having Matterport scans of your homeowners, of your former customers' properties allows you to make sure that you can remind them, hey, should anything happen, we're still here. We still got your scans. We'll be ready to respond. Hey, if anything happens to your friends or family, just a reminder, we use this Matterport technology to process claims. You liked it. Your friends may like it. So feel free to give us a referral. And so it helps remind people of, hey, we helped service your home. We still have your scans available to us. We can activate them when you need them. And we'd be ready to respond if you ever need us again. So yeah, it's way more than just a camera, man. There's so many opportunities to impact. And I think that's what's really fun for us here at Actionable, Tim, is that we are not consultants, we are educators. So we don't fly in and ever tell people what to do, but we help people understand what the best practices are and how each company applies Matterport is different to that company. We never come in and train the same process every time. That would be quite boring for me. That's why I'm not a consultant. But I love helping people understand, hey, how does Matterport's technology apply to your process? Where does it make sense? This tool worked for this team really well, but you don't value it at all. That's okay. Here's a different tool that might work towards your process a little bit better. So it's quite fun to see how people apply this stuff to their job process.
Thank you. I've got a couple questions in the Q&A that are somewhat aimed towards carriers. And are we able to discuss or share names of any carriers that are currently utilizing Matterport for risk engineering?
That's a good question. Honestly, Tim, you would know better than I do. You got all that contracts on your side.
Yeah.
I do know of a few carriers in the Midwest that have looked into, we will not bind policies without a Matterport scan on file in anticipation of a risk engineering scans, in anticipation of things ripping through those areas and homes not being there anymore. And so I can say for sure, Tim, in my experience as being Matterport's training and support partner, you have had pilots with the top 25 major carriers across the US. Every single carrier now knows what Matterport is and can recognize it. I think we're past the days when carriers used to say, oh, that's an external website, I can't click on it. I think you've been whitelisted by pretty much every carrier for them to recognize the value of a Matterport scan in the job process. And so I don't have any particular names that I can like name drop of like, this is the carrier you got to look at. This is the one that has risk engineering scans. Because often these are conversations happening at mid to high levels, and your individual adjuster that you may interact with may not be aware of these risk engineering scans or whatnot. But there is a trend. There is a shift for carriers to be documenting these properties with Matterport cameras on a more regular basis. I mean, Matterport represents the best opportunity a carrier has to see what a home looks like. Often, I think the average home is sold every 9 years or something around that number. And so if a carrier can only really get into a home every 9 years, you're not getting good data. But losses happen more frequently than every 9 years. Sorry, everybody, but they do. And so contractor, an IA, a PA, or someone with a Matterport camera servicing a loss gives the carrier insight into a property in a way that they never had before.
Absolutely. And as Seth, you said, Matterport has done pilots with all of the top, I know in the time that I've been here, absolutely the top 10, the top 25 even, all the carriers in the ecosystem are familiar with what Matterport is. I can testify that they do not all utilize Matterport in the same manner. They may use it for different aspects of their organization or business, but the adoption that we are seeing on the Matterport side is bigger and bigger and much larger each and every year that Matterport has been in business now just over 10 years. So we continue to see more and more adoption, more absorption in the marketplace, not just from the contractors, but the carriers as well. We also have a question here. I'm assuming this question came from John. Have carriers accepted Matterport as a resource for use on claims? We are limited by carrier guidelines, and we are not able to charge for many things that we need regularly. You all see where this is leading,
Yeah.
right? And
Oh,
in
100%.
carrier guidelines. What are your thoughts or comments on somewhat of a question and a statement at that time?
Yeah. Hey, I started my career as a program estimator. I only wrote claims for a contractor for nationwide program claims for almost 2 years. So I'm very familiar with the grind of program work and the requirements of, hey, you're going to give me work, but I have to follow your invoicing guidelines, your process, and do it in a timely manner that's responsible to the customer. Has its benefits, has its consequences, but let's all be real here. Program work's not going away anytime soon, so it's good to understand it and understand how to work with it. When it comes to Matterport, we have an entire module in our online video-based certification course around invoicing for Matterport. When or how would it be appropriate? We worked with the pricing department at Xactimate around the 2 line items, fee scan 3D and fee SKTCH, fee sketch. So there are line items in the Xactimate software now for invoicing for a 3D scan and invoicing for a third-party digital asset like TruePlan. So we've advocated for the adoption. We've worked with Xactimate to refine the language of these line items. These are $0 bid items so that you can define your price of what it costs to capture and service a claim with Matterport. But I also recognize there is no silver bullet in this industry. There's nothing actionable can give you that's like, you say this phrase and you're getting paid 100% of the time. Like, it just doesn't exist. So everything around documenting a claim and settling a claim comes down to communication, comes down to, hey, would it be warranted to charge for this? Is this a wildly complex scenario, even in a program environment where a Matterport claim or a Matterport scan will help speed up the entire process? I mean, there are 3 major things that we talk about when invoicing for Matterport. Number 1, to recognize that it reduces the overall claim cycle. The longer a claim is open, the more expensive it becomes to the carrier and the contractor alike. So having a Matterport scan on file allows everybody to speed up their entire process and see everything at the same time without needing to travel or fly and get to the job sites to be able to process all this information. It also, Matterport scan for a property insurance claim manages fraud, waste, and abuse like never before. Like I said earlier, you cannot Photoshop a Matterport scan. So like, it's a great way to self-audit and self-report what's happening on a job site so that everybody has some insight and can see, okay, yeah, everything's going well. And so naturally, and the adjusters on our board of directors would also like me to remind everyone that if you're going to be invoicing for Matterport, communicate that up front. Some of our best practices come around including what you would be charging, informing your homeowner upfront in your work authorization of the value of a scan, but also the cost to perform a scan. So it doesn't come up as like a, hey, I made up this number 6 months later when I'm charging for it. And so it really comes down to just communication upfront around the value of these scans, why they are important, and making sure policyholders, adjusters, and alike are aware of the cost associated with adding this value to the claim.
Absolutely. I'm going to move on to the next slide here. As far as, and I've heard from, all of you talk about, pre-mitigation, post-mitigation, post-repair. What are the different, best times or situations as we see here to utilize a Matterport camera to capture a model?
Yes, we have helped worked with you guys to standardize the language around the timings of scans. We have seen new technology enter the property insurance industry for decades, but often if it's not introduced uniformly, people will use it in different ways. They'll talk about it in different ways, and we lose some of the efficiency if everybody's using the same thing in different ways. Not a bad thing, but at least we wanted to standardize the terminology around when are we performing scans. Risk engineering, we've already talked about, happens well before a loss. Pre-mitigation. This is one of the most important scans because you are capturing what the house looked like at the time of the loss before any work was done. So before any equipment's deployed on site, before any extraction is done, before any demolition is done, you're performing a pre-mitigation scan. Post-mitigation, right after the demo is done, right after mitigation is done, but the equipment is still on site in place so that the carrier can see where was the equipment on this job site, all the dehues and air movers and alike. And so if you have a pre-mitigation and a post-mitigation scan, Tim, you essentially have the before and the after such that you can process that claim entirely. What did it look like before? What damage was done? And how do we put it back? That's going to be the repair estimate on the flip side. You don't see as many progress scans in our industry, but a progress scan would become involved of, hey, what is a progress scan? Well, we're halfway through the job on the repair side, and we're going to perform a scan. If you have a contract that releases funds based on the completion of a phase, let's say I'm done with drywall, 25% of the contract is to be released, then you might see some progress scans in those kinds of claims, especially in larger losses. Post repairs as well, if you've done great work for someone, their home looks fantastic after a fire loss, after a water loss, and that homeowner likes you and they're willing to invite you back in so you could take a scan of their property, that allows you to show other people, whether it's to give that policyholder their post-repair scans or to put it on your website as to, hey, here's your pre-mit. This is what the house looked like when we first saw it. Here's your post-mitigation. This is what it looks like in a claim. Right? This is what it looks like to mitigate a home. But lastly, post-repair, here's what we're capable of on the repair side. Mm-hmm. Stone, if you could only have 2 scans, this 5 is nice to have the full suite of 5 scans on a property. That's wonderful. But if you could only have 2, which 2 are the most valuable to a contractor and an adjuster?
Absolutely. The pre and the post, because that gives you the conditions of the loss and it gives you what needs to be done to repair the property to pre-loss conditions. So you can take those geospatial assets, hand it off to an estimator remotely, and put together your scope.
Outstanding. I also want to say it also helps you get paid for the mitigation work, correct?
Yes.
And justifying every equipment charge and DHU and air mover charge, so on and so forth, that was in that mitigation estimate.
Yeah, the classic phrase, if you don't have a picture of the equipment on site, you're not getting paid for it. So what better way to capture it than a 3D scan that shows you exactly where every piece of equipment is in the property?
Absolutely.
Outstanding. Thank you for those descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about one of the most underutilized features and values of Matterport technology today.
Oh man, it's my favorite aspect of your technology. Okay. Hey, anybody watching, would you like to be able to teleport? Would you also be able to like to time travel? Like at the same time, go back in time to a particular point to be able to see something you need to see. That's what a deep link is. A deep link is a teleportation link to a particular point in a Matterport scan to show what you are trying to show. Tim, contractors and adjusters have been talking to each other through invoices and estimates for decades, desperately trying to prove or show to each other as to why something needs to be done. And we've had F9 notes. If you're familiar with Xactimate, you add an F9 note to explain why you're going to be invoicing for something, why you included that line item. Or you've sent in photos to justify why you need to do what you're going to do in that estimate. But a deep link is a clickable teleportation link to the point in the scan that you need to see. And what's fascinating to me about deep links is, Tim, I was quite angry at you and Matterport when I found out about deep links because nobody told us about them. I happened to accidentally hit the U key on my keyboard one day, and a little box pops up in the top right of a Matterport scan that says link to location. That is a deep link. And so when we go out and train, we try to remind people about the U key. So you might see this slide. This is from a Florida training deck. One of the best ways that we can connect with people when we're training in a locale that's not our own is recognizing local universities that they may or may not be a fan of. And so you'll see a bunch of Florida universities here we had to cheat with the Gators and the Seminoles. It's their mouse, but U's are sideways. But whatever your team is, please don't forget about the U key, U key, U key, U key, U key. Apparently science says if we say it 7 times, you'll remember it better. But Tim, let's go to the next slide so people can see what a deep link is and how it works. This is an example of an Xactimate estimate. And you can see here's a line item where line item 23, they are charging to tear out, trim, and bag for disposal. But specifically, they've added a Matterport deep link to be able to show to the adjuster or to the policyholder, hey, what are we talking about when we're talking about we're removing cord around? Go ahead and click that deep link for me, Tim, so that people can see what this looks like. It doesn't load to the default front door. It loads to the exact point in the scan that'll show off the cord around that is being torn out and bagged for disposal. That's it. That's everything. Everything contractors and adjusters have been trying to do is to show off why they're going to do what they have to do. And a deep link allows contractors and adjusters to communicate through teleportation and time travel in a way that I've never seen before to show here's what's happening, here's what is, let's talk about it and how we're going to be both doing it in the field and invoicing for it in our estimates. So if you're looking for a way to justify your estimates, deep links are the best possible add-on tool that you can put inside of your Xactimate estimates.
Thank you, Seth.
Yeah, I get a little passionate about that one if you can't tell. Like, it's super
It's a good
important
one.
that people understand the U key and deep links. And if you're using Matterport and you're not using deep links, you are missing out on so much value. Please take a look at our MatterHacks videos. Cole, talk about MatterHacks for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a cool resource right here. So we've been putting out MatterHacks videos for a number of years. We look at ourselves as the scientists in the laboratory, right? We are not settling claims on a daily basis, but you are. And so what we do is we try to tinker with every single little aspect of Matterport's hardware and software. We find the intricacies and the efficiencies, and we deliver that via a free video series called MatterHacks. I don't think anyone was thinking about the Matterport Pro 2 battery button, but we are, right? We're diving into that in depth in a video, explaining it, talking about the benefits, what happens, etc. So this video series, it's free on YouTube. You might have been blessed by the algorithmic gods and delivered that video at some point, but go ahead and check it out. A great video series here for free for the industry. Our goal, just to provide some education and get folks really leveraging this technology to its fullest extent.
Yeah. And Cole, I've watched every single MatterHack video that you guys have released about Matterport. I absolutely love those videos, recommend them to customers and clients all the time. If you guys are not currently following Actionable Insights on LinkedIn or Facebook or social media, definitely look them up and or follow and take a look at those videos. I mean, you are going to get some very high quality, short 2, 3, maybe even 5-minute short tutorial videos about different features, values, and tools that Matterport provides that you're going to find very helpful and on demand. Actionable profile. This is something very exciting, Seth, that we would love to shine a light on today, and how Matterport, the Actionable Insights Matterport certification, and this actionable profile that's available to your customers all come together and create the perfect storm.
Yeah, thank you. As an educational nonprofit, we decided to build out our own learning management system in 2019. And the first course that we added was a course called the Actionable Insights Matterport Certification course. So if you've been watching this webinar and you're wondering, hey, how can I service property insurance claims better as a contractor, as an IA, as an PA, as an adjuster? If I typically scan real estate properties and I'm looking to expand my business and learn how I can scan for contractors and adjusters, what different challenges there are in a home that's being sold versus a home that has water on the floor in a Cat 3 environment in which you need to wear protection. Obviously, we have some good ideas about Matterport in the property insurance industry. If you've been using Matterport for a long time, great. And I think a lot of times when Marty and Stone and I are on the road, we meet people that have been using Matterport for a long time and are very confident in it. Why? Because Matterport's very intuitive, which is awesome. Like, it's an easy to pick up software, give it to someone, and they can figure out how to scan a home with a Matterport camera. Thank you guys for building that intuitive software that makes it easy with that Matterport Capture app. But I guarantee you there's something you don't know about Matterport that would level up your process in a way that's very important. And that's why we built the Matterport certification course. 2018, 2019, Martin, Watley, and I were on the road for 60 to 70% of the years, like on the road, flying out to contractors and carriers and training them. And we quickly realized that was unsustainable. Matterport was gaining in popularity and traction in our industry. And so we had to build a scalable course, a video-based course that's live, it's online, and it's on demand, meaning you can start and stop as much as you want because that is our industry. We do not know what our schedule will be when we wake up. Things happen and things change. And so we had to build a learning course that was accessible from the ease of your toilet if you need to. You can watch it from your phone whenever you want, but we wanted to build something that helps people understand, hey, if I'm going to use Matterport to settle a claim, what is the best way to do it? That course covers 3 main topics: camera operation. How do I set up the camera? What are the best accessories for property insurance? What are the things I need to be thinking about there? Settling the claim. How do I document the claim? How do I use the 3D space? How do I use the edit mode, the measurement mode, the deep links to process a claim efficiently? And ultimately invoicing for digital assets, scans, how to order true plans, what the value of a true plan would look like. And so if you are interested in leveling up your use and understanding of Matterport, especially for the property insurance industry, that's what the Actionable Insights Matterport certification course was built for. The other thing we're doing right now, which is the hottest heat people are excited about, is the Actionable Profile. It's a profile in Xactimate that includes live dynamic estimating guidance while you work. So essentially, you're writing your estimate in Xactimate. You're working in the Actionable Profile. If you're making a mistake, a little alert will pop up that says, hey, you're doing something that people don't typically do, or you're doing something that you've included 2 line items. They're mutually exclusive. You're going to have a problem. You should make a change before you submit the scope. Also, little alerts will pop up that says, hey, based on the scope you're writing, people also include these line items. It's up to you to decide if you should also be charging for these activities. And so, Tim, we've recognized the average estimate is revised 3.7 times before it is settled for the contractor to get to work and the policyholder to have their home put back together. That's wildly inefficient. Contractor, carrier, contractor, carrier, then maybe settled. So if we can build resources that react to your scope while you write it, to help you write the best scope the first time, to include all of the line items you're supposed to include, to not make common estimating mistakes that complicate the claim and hold things up, that's what we've built in the Actionable Profile. So if you've never heard about it before, it's super awesome. Yes, we're a little biased, but if you're interested in learning how do I write better estimates in Xactimate, the Actionable Profile is a natural solution that will react to your scope while you write it.
Outstanding. Now, as we're talking about all of these benefits and features and tools in the Actionable Insights toolbox, if you want to reach out and connect with the team at Actionable Insights, we've got an email address for you here. We've got cole@getinsights.org. That will send a communication directly over to my main man, Cole, there to be able to reach back out to you directly and get you sorted with what your organization needs. You also have the Actionable Insights Matterport certification that you can sign up for online on their website. And Cole said, Derek, does one of you want to share what that website is?
Yeah, you can check out all of that at getinsights.org. It's just like the extension at the end of my email there. And we'll be able to talk with you, hook you up with the right resources, get you set, really leveraging Matterport to its fullest extent.
Outstanding. Thank you, Team Actionable, for your time today. We do have a few other topics that I have to quickly jump into. And for those who have stayed with us this long for the duration, you are going to get a little bit of a cherry on top. If you sign up for the Actionable Insights Matterport certification and you input this code, it's my last name, Kern125. We also have one I'll share on the last slide that has Ben Clark and Danny Michael's last name, followed by the number 125, as a discount code. When you purchase or sign up for that course, normally a cost of $500, you will get a $125 discount. Now, this slide also serves as your resource slide for our direct communication for the insurance and restoration team at Matterport, whether you're looking to talk to Ben or Danny on the sales side for hardware or software. That is who you're going to want to talk to, Ben or Danny. For me, once you've made that investment, they will hand you over to me for your training, onboarding, and implementation. So make sure you've made a note of those email addresses and phone numbers. Again, we will have copies of this available in the recording. For the internal Matterport resources, we have an email address up here at the top. If you want to send an email to everybody on the insurance and restoration team, just simply draft an email and send that to insure-repair@matterport.com. It includes all of us. If you happen to have a technical issues, such as a pet ran through the room or while you were scanning the stairs and knocked the camera over and it fell down and was damaged, a support ticket may need to be required in order to get those repairs done and a replacement camera in your hands as soon as possible. There's two ways to do that. You can reach out to support via email at support.insurance@matterport.com, or we have a link here that we'll make sure everyone has access to, where you can fill out an online support ticket, including the camera details, such as the serial number, the make and model of the camera, so that process moves much faster and seamless. We've also got, as I said here, our email addresses and phone numbers direct to our two account executives and me on the customer success side at Matterport. Other than that, we want to make sure everybody is aware that Matterport 2 also has videos available on what we call Matterport Academy, hosted by our resident expert, Amir Frank, who you can tap into. And it's not as much vertical direct as Actionable is for insurance and restoration. However, the videos on Matterport Academy that we have available on YouTube or at the website that you see here, if you go to Matterport's website and go down to the bottom, you will see the resources available for Matterport Academy. We've got the getinsights.org website listed here, along with the discount codes for myself, Ben, and Danny to get that $125 discount on your Actionable Insights certification course. After this is just a preview of our resident expert, Mr. Amir Frank. I know Amir is on the call right now with us. Leave it up to him if he's able to come off camera or not, because I know he is traveling. But this is Amir, who you will see hosting all of those Matterport Academy videos if you choose to tap into YouTube or Matterport's website to find those short tutorials. Last but not least, I know we are at time, but we do have a couple of things that we want to remind you of. As you go to hit end or leave this webinar today, you are going to be initiated to take a very short, I want to say 8 to 10 question survey about the quality of today's webinar and get some input from you. I encourage you all to take a minute or two to fill that out. We greatly appreciate your feedback and want to hear more from you that are participating, so we can make these webinars more valuable and beneficial to you in the future. With that, looking at the Q&A here and just seeing a couple things that I will address before we jump off. As it refers to ESX files, I know someone had a question for the Actionable team. Do you guys actually create the ESX file? Is that something that the Actionable team does as part of their services? I did see
No. Let me
So-
be clear here what we're referring to. TruePlan is a SKX sketch template file. It's essentially the sketch that you can drop into an Xactimate ESX file. And so an ESX file is the estimate file, the project that you would be working in, and then you can drop in the sketch from Matterport. How the TruePlan file is created, I don't know. I do not work at Matterport. I work at Actionable Insights. But I do know that the point cloud data that is captured with the Matterport technology is accurate within 1%, and the digital assets that you can build off of that data is fascinating, accurate, and is speeding up the claims process for everybody that's doing it. Hey, like, just as a heads up, guys, we've hit the time in human history where we never have to sketch again. We've did it. We made it. It's 2023. Congratulations. We've gotten to the point where the age of automation can handle sketching on our behalfs. So it is something that we talk about in our training in the Actionable Insights Matterport certification video around. We have a responsibility moving forward to do what only humans can do. And there's a lot of important things that we can do around scanning properties and settling claims with those scans.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Seth. And if writing estimates is something that you guys are looking to get assistance with, as you know, the Actionable team has mentioned, you may want to consider signing up for that Actionable profile. and, getting those services to help you write your estimates properly and efficiently and get the most value from them. That is what that profile, some of that is there for. So not just the Matterport certification course, which you can pass and get this neat little card when you become certified, but plug into the bigger ecosystem there, talk about the actionable profile, reach out to Cole and see what they can do to help your business. I do apologize, everyone. We have come way up on time here. We are a few minutes past, but I want to thank you again to everybody on the Actionable Insights team for participating in our webinar today. I look forward to having another webinar here coming up in Q1 of next year. And we are going to have another participant with us. We are going to have Paul Davis Restoration on our next Shop Talk webinar related to insurance and restoration during Q1. So further communications to come out about joining that. And thank you all again for your time today. Everyone have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.